Welcome into a Wednesday edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thanks for being with us. My name is Madelyn Burke. He's a Super Bowl champion, Shaun O'Hara. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or find us on Twitter at #GiantsChat. And as a reminder, you can find the archive of this show and our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, as well as podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. Wow, I got a frog in my throat already. It is week 8. We're not even halfway through the season, but you know what? We're halfway through the week, and we got a Monday Night Football matchup to prepare for. But before we get started, I want to apologize that I know our show is starting late today, as we tweeted out. I hope you guys saw. I know the show's usually scheduled for 12:30. We're getting a 1 o'clock start because we had some media availabilities from players. Shaun, you had a little chit-chat with Azeez Ojulari.
Yeah, guilty as charged right here. We called an audible. I was not tardy. I was interviewing Azeez Ojulari, and we had a little fun one-on-one interview on the field. So that was why we had to push things back. So we appreciate you guys adjusting. I think the really cool thing about talking to Azeez is just like I could feel the excitement in his voice and his energy ever since Kayvon Thibodeau went down. Obviously, you don't ever want to see a teammate get injured, but now this opportunity has been created for Azeez, and he has maximized it. I mean, he's been phenomenal right out of the gate in his first game filling in. I mean, he was in the backfield. I think he had 2 sacks in that first game. He's been in the backfield the entire time. So I could feel the energy, and we talked about the Monday Night Football. Like, I remember growing up, and Monday Night Football was like the king. It was like, I think it was Summerall and Madden, and like to get to play on prime time, that was really special. So we talked about that a little bit, and he's jazzed up, and he also is going to be going up against a fellow Georgia Bulldog in Broderick Jones, who has not been playing great as of late, and actually he's kind of had to battle some questions about his lack of technique. Mike Tomlin actually just came to his defense, Broderick Jones' defense, just today, and talking about his play. So that'll be a good little matchup to watch. But you can catch that interview on the Dable Show.
There you go, Coach Dable's show, which is going to be airing on the Giants YouTube channel, as well as MSG Networks for those local to the New York, New Jersey media audience. You know, we're here to plug our content, our colleagues over here, the excellent work that is done on these shows. Azeez Ojulari is also, contributing to this Giants defense that is leading the league in sacks. Dexter Lawrence, though, I mean, already we're 7 games into the season. We're in week 8, and there's like Defensive Player of the Year smoke, because the fact that he's not only leading the Giants but also the league in sacks at the nose tackle position, that's pretty wild.
It is wild. And, you kind of go back to like, all right, when was the last time an interior defensive lineman had this much of an impact and had this much production? And it was Aaron Donald. And so you look at it and it's like, all right, well, Aaron Donald's a 3 technique. Yes, he's not an outside edge rusher, but he's making this impact, and he's so fast and explosive. Dexter Lawrence, you don't really think of him as like, man, this guy's a pass rusher. He's kind of taking up both A-gaps. He's more, you would think of him as more of like, hey, I'm a run stuffer. Sometimes those guys come off the field on 3rd down. Not Dexter Lawrence. I mean, he's doing both. He's such a massive human that I remember playing against Ted Washington back when he played for the Bills. He played for the Raiders at the time. And I remember coming off the field, and Pat Flaherty, Flats, our line coach, was like, hey, which A-gap was he in? The front side A-gap or the back side A-gap? And I'm like, both. Like he was like a planet in there. Yeah. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he had both A-gaps covered. That's Dexter Lawrence. So, he does have the versatility. He's playing the shade, which that's a tough matchup, him one-on-one versus center. You're giving up probably 55 pounds, but he's so darn quick. And then they do move him out a little bit, so he plays against the guards as well. But what Dexter has been doing is, it's phenomenal. I mean, the fact that the Giants are leading the league in sacks. I remember when we signed and traded for Brian Burns, and everybody talked about his production and his impact and how that's going to help. And the one thing that we kept associating it with was, well, look, you've got the edge rush guy. You need somebody to push the pocket, and you already had him in Dexter Lawrence. Yeah. That's going to be a great relationship, a very symbiotic relationship. And, we've seen the production. I think we thought the production was going to come from Burns,
right?
But it's really come from Dexter Lawrence. He's playing out of his mind, and it's fun to watch, and I know you love the dance.
Well, and I definitely love the dance. I do it on the show sometimes, much to the chagrin of the show's producers. But you know what? It's okay. Got to give the people what they want. More sexy Dexy dance. I'm even Chair doing it right now. I know Pearson over there snort laughing at how ridiculous this is.
He wants to do it too.
You know what though? Yeah, see Pearson. You can't see it, not pictured, but Pearson over there just hitting the sexy Dexy in the swivel chair. So, just want to give some flowers to Dexter Lawrence. 9 sacks through 7 games. The next closest interior defensive lineman has 4. So just kind of a show and just the production that he's getting now. Giants defense has their work cut out for them this week. Monday Night Football facing the Steelers, a team that, you know, has made the change from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson, put him in at quarterback. And last week, week 7, they're on Sunday Night Football in prime time playing against the Jets. And that first half, you know, the Steelers are down. Russell Wilson looks off. It seems like every opportunity they could, the cameras would cut over to Justin Fields on the sideline with his helmet on, ready to go. And you're thinking, okay, are they going to change to Fields in the second half? Are they going to go back to him? But then, you know, Russ finds his groove, starts cooking. We see that moon ball in full effect, as Collinsworth likes to call it. Just that deep, accurate, high-arching pass that he is so good at, that touch that he's got. And this is going to be a real challenge, not just for the Giants pass rush, but for the secondary that's had some ups and downs through the season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, look, for Russell to come in and all of a sudden now the Steelers offense just, it seemed like it opened up. Like George Pickens came to life, and all of a sudden they're completing these deep throws. And that moon ball, you know, if you were watching the game, the broadcast Collinsworth talked about, it makes it such a hard pass to defend, because it's not, when you call it a moon ball, it's not just how high it gets, but it's the fact that the ball turns over and the way that it drops in. It's not like if it's a lower trajectory pass, that defender can get his hand up there and knock it down. But when it comes down from the sky, like rain, that makes it so hard to defend. And it's amazing what Russell did with this offense. Back-to-back weeks, the Steelers now have scored 32 points or more, 37 points against the Jets, who I think a lot of people thought the Jets were one of the best defenses in the league coming into this season for sure. That obviously now... you know, is going to be a big point of emphasis. I think before Russell Wilson entered as the quarterback, you would have said the Steelers is a run-first offense. Like you got to stop Najee Harris. You know, you got to find a way to contain Justin Fields. Now it's almost like the script has been flipped. Now, look, they're airing the ball out. Freiermuth is a stud down the middle of the field. I mentioned Pickens on the outside. Najee Harris, you still have to tackle him. They like to get him sprinkled into the screen game as well. So this offense is definitely much improved from the Steelers' offense, even the previous couple of weeks. That, to me, is the biggest part of this game. Can the Giants score points? I feel like we've sat here every single week and talked about, is this going to be the game that they kind of get over the hump? We saw it in Seattle.
Yeah.
Thanks to the blocked field goal for a touchdown, but like we're still waiting for that breakout game offensively, and they have definitely played better on the road. Let's hope that stays true on Monday night.
Well, and going up against the Steelers defense, though, that has allowed an average of 14.4 points per game, the second fewest in the National Football League, is going to be hard to put points on the board. I mean, that's just a fact right there. And, you know, you mentioned the difference between Russ and Justin Fields. One of the big differences, obviously, is Fields is more of a mobile running quarterback. Russ can send it. And I think, you know, you saw on Sunday Night Football, there were some moments in which had Fields been in, he would have taken off, used his legs, got the first down, moved the chains that way. You know, Russ is more somebody who's going to stand back there and kind of survey the field and wait for the passing game to open up to him. How, as a Giants defense, you know, when you know that about your quarterback, that he's not going to just kind of take off to move the sticks, how does that affect the way you play him?
Yeah, it's twofold, and you kind of touched on it before. The coverage has to be better because Russell he's kind of running to buy time to throw the ball, whereas Justin Fields was running like boom. As soon as he decided running, he's tucking that ball, he's going.
Yeah.
Russell, he's an escape artist, but he's really looking to throw the ball, and he wants to get out of the pocket. He wants to make those big plays and stress your defense. So the challenge is, all right, we want to get pressure on the quarterback, but we want to keep Russ in the pocket. We don't want to let him get outside. That's when your secondary gets stressed, and it's harder to stay in those coverage lanes and have, you know, if you're playing a zone, that all of a sudden gets tweaked. If you're playing man, you've got a plaster, and it's harder to do that when he's outside the tackle box. So you want to try to contain him. You want to rush him and pressure him, but keep him in the pocket. Don't let him get outside. You know, I think the one thing with Russell too is you can't just get there. Like, you got to bring him down. Like, even he's done a great job. He's got this little baseball roll that he kind of fakes inside and spins out of it. He's not an easy guy to bring down as well. So We kind of saw him revert back to a little bit of the danger Russ that we saw in Seattle. That has been dormant, with his stop in Denver. But, he's definitely someone that you've got to either have a spy rusher on or, we saw this rear its ugly head against Cincinnati when Joe Burrow had that 42-yard touchdown run. If you're not in your rushing lanes, and you've got to find a way to, everybody's got to be in their lanes, keep their gap integrity, so you're not letting him gash you with a big run.
Absolutely. And we'll see how it all plays out Monday Night Football. But Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or go to giants.com/podcast. And don't forget, if you are on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. 201-939-4513 is the phone number as we head to the phone lines. We've got Dylan in New Jersey holding on line 1. Dylan, welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun O'Hara and Madelyn Burke.
What's up? So I think that what I noticed in last game is that we took out one of our linemen, and we did really bad. And we could have put it in extra tight end or the running back to block, but we chose not to, and we paid the price.
That's a good thought, Dylan. I appreciate the call too. And I mean, like you said, you could have thrown in a tight end or running back to block. We did see, having, many occasion a tight end chip blocking in that situation. You saw Singletary get involved. Our young callers calling in, joining the show. Shaun, what is your impression on the Giants' offensive line play in Week 7?
I love Dylan's question. I love his attention to detail. Like he knows that we had Josh Ezeudu in a left tackle, and like anybody that understands concepts, hey, we got to help him. So are we going to put a tight end in there and chip? We're going to put a running back in there and chip. The first sack of the game that Ezeudu actually led up, he had a tight end chip his guy. So there was help there, and he just, he had a bad set, and he got beat to the outside. So I think they were definitely trying to help Ezeudu. But as the game went along, I thought Josh actually settled in nicely, and he started to play better. And then all of a sudden, we started to have some cracks and some breakthroughs on the other side. I thought Greg Van Roten got beat a couple times. Jalen Carter, he was the 3rd overall pick a couple years ago. They have some studs inside, and I thought that collectively, I thought that was the worst game for this entire offensive line. And they've been stellar all year long. We have not had to talk about them really. We didn't start talking about them until Andrew Thomas got hurt, and that's a good thing. As an offensive lineman, if they're not talking about you, you're doing your job. So, Dylan, I love the point about it. I think, you can only give a guy so much help. You don't want to put him on an island and ask him to pass block 25 times one-on-one by himself. So they're going to find ways to help out Josh Ezeudu, especially this week with T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt's on a little bit of a sleeper here. He doesn't have a sack in the last 2 games, which scares me as an offensive lineman because they usually come in bunches. So if you've got a guy that's been on a little bit of a drought, like here comes the storm, they will definitely help him out. I also will I have a question for Dylan. Like, it's 1:20. Are you not in school? Are you calling me from school? Are you being homeschooled? Like, how is it that you were able to just make that call on a Wednesday? I just checked my calendar. It is not a holiday, so I don't know what's going on. I love that you're locked in. I just hope you're not missing any class by calling in the BBK.
It's one of those put the thermometer on the light bulb in the morning. Like, I don't feel good. I got to stay home and listen to BBK.
Are you Ferris Bueller and everybody right now? Did you just fake something to stay home?
I respect it.
I
you
love
know
Dylan.
What? Real fan life right there. Dylan in New Jersey. We appreciate it. When you look at the way the offensive line is, though, last week in Andrew Thomas's, the news came out that Andrew Thomas was done for the season. Dable said, the things that they were thinking of was Ezeudu in the left tackle spot, or perhaps moving Jermaine Illuminor to left tackle and then putting Evan Neal in at right tackle. When you look at the matchup this week with the Steelers, you mentioned T.J. Watt. T.J. Watt oftentimes lines up opposite the right tackle. So it almost feels like you'd want to keep Illuminor on that side instead of kind of shaking things up, because Illuminor and Van Roten have a really good chemistry, not just from this year, but from their time together in Las Vegas with the Raiders. And you want to make sure that right side is shored up against the Steelers, one of their strongest pass rushers.
Yeah, I don't anticipate any changes with the lineup. And I think anytime you can put one guy in and not disrupt the other side, I think that's beneficial for everybody, like you just mentioned. They're all, that right side's got, they've played well together. They've got the communication down. That's going to be even more paramount as you go into Pittsburgh on a Monday Night Football. Like that scene and the crowd noise, like that's something that you don't want. Now all of a sudden you've got 2 tackles playing in new positions and you're dealing with the silent count. So I don't anticipate any change with that. I think Josh, like I said, he settled in. I think he played a little bit better as the game went along. But I will say, you're going on the road, you're playing in Pittsburgh. Please don't start the game with 6 straight passes. Like, the crowd noise is going to be a factor. Like, we need 3rd and 5 or less the first couple of possessions of the game in order to convert. We have not been able to convert. And a lot of it's been because we're 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. Those are tough downs to convert on. So I think, you're kind of going into the bee's nest right now with the Steelers, and those terrible towels are going to be all over the place, and they're going to be all juiced up because they've been hanging out at the point since 4 o'clock p.m. on Monday. They're going to be all lubed up by the time they get into the stadium. I'm pretty sure it's Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah.
That place is, for sure, it's going to be rocking and rolling. So you want to try to get them to settle down a little bit, and I think you got to run the football. Initially, you've got to start out, be physical, let your offensive linemen kind of be on attack mode, and then start to sprinkle in some pass and some play action.
Yeah, and I mean, especially in 2 of the oldest franchises in the National Football League, let's get some vintage 3 yards in a cloud of dust run game going on.
Yeah, we got to make this game bloody. We got to slow it down. Like we're not the Giants. To try to think that they're going to go into Pittsburgh right now and score 30-plus points, like that's just not realistic. We scored 10 points in the last 2 games combined. So they've got to muddy this game up as much as possible. And I think offensively the best way to do that would be to start out with the ground and pound. Also,
fun fact, this is a family affair matchup on Monday Night Football, as you know. I mean, Kate Mara, who's been a guest on the Eli Manning and Shaun O'Hara Eli Manning show, and her sister Rooney Mara, their parents.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Rooney was named after the Rooney family.
The Rooney family. There's I mean, Tim Mara and Kathleen Rooney, and, married and had 2 kids and all that kind of stuff. So this is definitely, there's ties deeper than just vintage NFL right here. Random fun fact for you on a Wednesday. But we'll see how it all goes. All right.
Oh, what do you think of the Corgi races?
Oh, my gosh. So elite, by the way. We talked about the Corgi races last week on the show. If you guys didn't listen, you're missing out. First of all, if you don't know, Corgis' butts float. They do, and I was very happy to show Pearson and Georgie and some of our other production staff some videos to show you. Just even if you try to push their bums right down, they just whoop right back to the top. Buoyant booties, those Corgis. But they had some races at halftime of the game last week at MetLife Stadium, and you know what? It sparked joy, I will say.
I missed it.
Yeah.
I missed the races. Where was it, like Westminster Dog Show? Like, was it like slalom stuff? Was it an obstacle course? Was it frisbee catching? Like, what was the Olympics?
It was just a little sprinting action,
so it was just
right?
flat out running.
Some zoomies, little corgi zoomies on the field. I mean, who wouldn't be joyful after watching some of that, right?
Did they get in the end zone?
I feel like they could have scored if we gave them a football. No?
That would have been nice.
That would have been nice. Somebody did.
Yeah.
Giants fans, speaking of MetLife Stadium, take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2024 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. As we head back to the phone lines, we've got Lou in Virginia on the line. Lou, you're on BBK with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How are you today?
Doing well. How are you, Lou?
I'm good. It pains me to say this, but I think that Charlie might be right for the first time in any time I've ever heard him call in about Mr. Jones. I think that he probably would do better with a fresh start somewhere else. I don't think he's a guy for us. I really don't. I know that a lot of the stuff that's happened wasn't all his fault, especially the fact that we can't seem to hold on to passes anymore. I don't understand what happens there. And I know that changing coaches is not the way to go, but I think we may need a fresh start there as well. I also agree with you, Shaun, on the fact that I didn't understand us passing the ball 10 times in a row on Sunday afternoon was ridiculous to me. and we can't keep force-feeding Malik all the time. Other guys have to be available and be able to make plays, or else we're never going to get anywhere with our offense. So I'll take the rest of it offline, and thank you guys for doing a great job.
Thanks so much for the call, Lou.
All right, thanks, sweet Lou. Appreciate it. I missed the Charlie thing, so I'm not privy to that call.
I'm not either. Yeah.
Just based on what he was saying, I'm gonna gloss over kind of the first aspect that Lou brought up, because that's to me an off-season debate. Like, we want to talk about Daniel Jones next year. Like, we'll deal with that in January. Look, he's our best option to win. He's our best quarterback right now. So, like, any other talk about anybody else playing, like, Drew Lock can't do what Daniel Jones can do. So I don't want to hear that. Like, Daniel Jones, he can play better, and I think he would be the first one to tell you that. But it's not all on him. And this is not me like defending Daniel Jones, because I think there are plays where he has missed throws, he has missed reads, and you can turn on the film and you see it. It's like, hey, you know what, you need to be better at this situation. But yes, I mean, at what point through the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season we were leading the league in drops? So you can't ask him to throw it and catch it as well. I think Giselle quoted that, when Tom Brady threw that pass in the Super Bowl. So it's not just all on him. And, offensively, it's just things are not clicking. Whether he's forcing it, whether he's, a little bit tight with some of the stuff, whether he needs to let it loose. Maybe, everybody says, well, we want to see more down the field throwing. Look, he tried that against Philly too, and, they were in coverage. So it's tough. And look, Malik Neighbors is their most explosive player right now. And I don't care if you force feed him the ball. Like he said, look, if I'm open, like, give me the rock. And that's really what you do. It is the offensive coordinator's job. It's Kafka's job. It's Dable's job to find ways to put new wrinkles into the game. Give him the ball in a jet sweep. Like, you turn on the 49ers offense, and, when Debo was healthy, he was in the backfield. He was taking screens. Put Malik Neighbors in the backfield. Throw a screen pass to him. Make him a running back. Like, there's ways to get creative to get him the ball so that he's not just in the same spot and you're not forcing him into coverage or teams are bracketing him. So there is some opportunity to get creative. Now, the problem is you can't get creative on 3rd and 13. So the pre-snap penalties, you get a false start. You get, we had a touchdown taken back by offensive pass interference. We had a big play by Slayton a couple weeks ago taken back for an offensive lineman down the field. Those are all self-inflicted wounds, and that's what's most frustrating right now. The Giants still have not put together an A game on offense. They have not played a clean game, and this team is not a great team right now. Offensively, I'm speaking. They are not a good enough team that they can overcome all of those mental mistakes and penalties and bad plays. Like, they have to go on a 14-play drive to score a touchdown right now. The explosive plays are not there, and you can only do that if you're not shooting yourself in the foot, if you're not creating penalties, if you're not having guys miss a block or guys miss a hole. So that's really where the emphasis is. And, look, they all need to wear it. It's not just on the quarterback. It's not on the running back. It's not on the receiver. It's not on the left tackle. It's everybody. And it's that collective effort that needs to get better.
Yeah. And, watching the game last week, one of the things that stood out to me as well is the difference in the time. I mean, Malik Neighbors after the game said, hey, I was open. You watch, I was open. And yes, there were a lot of instances which he was open, but Daniel Jones did not have the time that he has had in the previous 6 weeks. And yes, there was a change at left tackle, but it felt like the line as a unit struggled more than they have. And, when it's like replacing the pinky on the finger, the whole hand struggles. How would you, did you notice that? Was that something that kind of felt like he didn't have the time and the comfort in the pocket that he had in previous games, which made it harder, not just getting the ball deep down the field, but just getting the ball out? Yeah,
you could pull up some of the sacks. I think there was 8 sacks in the game. And there's times where, yes, there's somebody open and DJ can't get the ball to him because he's getting harassed or he's avoiding a block, a linebacker or a defensive end. It wasn't just the offensive line. We talked about this on the postgame show. Devin Singletary was supposed to block the linebacker, and he went in and tried to cut block him, and he didn't get him down. And he ends up sacking, Daniel Jones. So there's one on the running back. Tight ends are involved in pass protection as well. John Michael Schmitz gave up a sack, and it was really an easy blitz. They were in an under front. Right? He had a shaded nose right here, and the will linebacker just blitzed in the A-gap, literally ran right to him. That should be an easy block. And he just, I don't know if he saw him late or he got on his back edge and he gave up a sack. Those are plays that you normally, would not have, but as you look at those sacks and then you look down the field, yeah, you know what? Those are missed opportunities because somebody is open. I don't think when I hear neighbors say, hey, look at the film, I was open. Every wide receiver worth a damn thinks he's open on every single play. So there's a little bit of that. You got to kind of like
there's nothing wrong with that comment.
Take that into account. You want a guy to think that he's open all the time. And Chad Johnson used to say, like, hey, I'm 7'11". I'm always open. That's the mindset that you want in your receiver. I think he probably learned from that your choice of words in that situation can get used against you, and I think that he would probably use a different terminology and a different context with that. But I think, look, right out of the gate, the first play of the game went to Neighbors. Second, the first third down of the game went to Neighbors. It was incomplete, but they're trying to get him involved early and often, as they should.
Yeah, and to that point too about his comments, hearing him say it in the context of the conversation, he wasn't pointing fingers. He was being a confident young wide receiver and saying, you know what, I was proud of myself. I got out of my breaks. I was open, and this is what I evaluate about my game from the day. And that, I think, like you said, in a soundbite taken outside of the context of the conversation, can be taken out of, twisted in a way that can be less flattering. And that's just tough that that people will do that. But
yeah, I also just want to remind people, Malik Neighbors is a rookie.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's, after a game, people are asking him questions about the offense and what should this be doing. Dude, he stayed in his lane. He's worried about himself. He's worried about his job. Hey, I want to help the team. I want to make them better. I would never ask a rookie to all of a sudden now you have to become the mouthpiece of the offense, or you've got to teach these other guys what to do or tell them what to do. That's asking too much of him. But I will say that this is the time now. If you're the Giants, let's see some leadership and let's see some guys on offense step up. The defense is doing their part. They're doing all they can. I don't know what else they can do. I mean, maybe they have to score too, but offensively, let's go. I want to see some fire. I want to see some guys pissed off, and let's go. Let's do this. There are enough veterans on that offense, and you need somebody to light a fire, and let's hold each other accountable and let's go to work.
And the value of doing that on a Monday Night Football stage can't be understated because of what it does, not just for the environment of the team, getting a win, getting, or having some productivity, but also kind of doing a lot to change the narrative around a team. Because I don't know about you, but when you're in a locker room and you hear the noise and the narrative around a team, and you hear people saying, oh, Daniel Jones 1-14 in prime time, and 7 straight primetime games that he hasn't run a touchdown pass, and people are looking at that and saying, okay, what how can this team offensively get going? You have a successful performance on primetime that puts, the league on notice. It's no, we do have this possibility. I think from watching this team is not so much that the skill set, but it's the consistency in executing that seems to have been the issue for them.
Yeah, the consistency is not there, and that goes hand in hand with confidence. If you're not consistently doing something, then you kind of lose confidence in that. So yeah, I do agree. I mean, look, the Giants need a win, and I don't care if it's on Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, in London, in Germany. I don't care where it is. We just need a dub. But doing it on Monday night would be huge. And obviously for Daniel Jones, he's kind of into that category now that we used to put Kirk Cousins in. Yeah. Every time Kirk Cousins was on primetime, it was oh my gosh, here's his awful record. And that becomes the meme.
Well,
Stafford was the same way.
But now Cousins is winning in primetime, and people are still bringing up that narrative of oh wow, he won in primetime. It's no, he's been doing that. It takes a while to shake that off.
And for Kirk Cousins, he would lose a primetime game and throw for 420 yards and 4 touchdowns. But they just were snake bit. They lost a last second field goal, or something crazy would happen. Stafford was the same way. Stafford couldn't win the big game. He was, awful in primetime. Then he goes to LA, and then obviously they had that big run. They win the Super Bowl, and now nobody talks about that. So, yeah, definitely this would be a great signature win for Daniel Jones. It would be great for him to play well on the road and in primetime. Look, you got Joe Buck and Troy Aikman in the booth. Troy loves to talk about quarterbacks and good quarterback play, so you want to light it up, and he's going to reward you with that. Also, let's not forget the Manning cast is going to be going on, so you've got Eli and Peyton that are looking forward to breaking down some of this quarterback play. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to do it, and I think now it's just the matter of go out and do it. Go out and perform. This game, look, we used to say all the time, doing things in practice is great, and that builds your confidence up. But you have to make the putt. You have to be able to make the putt with the tournament on the line. Like, can you do it? There's a lot of driving range champions. Like, hey, you go out of the driving range, and you know what? You're piping your 7-iron. You're sticking it every time. You're hitting your driver straight. You get out there on the course, and, like, guess what? Like, you know, you get a little loose. Like, you got to order, you know, give me that Casamigos Blanco. Like, I need my swing lube. Like, you gotta find a way to just relax, goose fraba, whatever it is, and make the putt. Like, that's what you got to do.
You drive for show and you putt for dough.
Amen.
You know, that's what you got to do. And the putt in this instance is the win.
The win.
All right.
Yeah.
Get the win. It's going to be tough, though, because, again, as we mentioned, the Pittsburgh offense is clicking. 37 points in Week 7 against the Jets. That's a season high. They're on back-to-back games in which they've had 30 or more points offensively.
We're hitting them right at the perfect time, but they just clobbered the Jets. The offense is coming to life, and now here we come. Like, if we got played 3 weeks ago when they were dysfunctional and they couldn't get out of their own way. That would have been easy. That would have been nice.
Start of the season 3-0 with 3 total touchdowns, and it's like, okay, this is a different 3-0 team. But now it's all right. It's full send. You got George Pickens, 100 yards receiving in 2 of the last 4 games. You got Najee Harris, back-to-back 100-yard rushing games. This offense is just working out well, and you see the way that Russ has stepped in. Mike Tomlin talked about how I wasn't sure what the plan was, but you had to see if Russ was the guy, and if for when they go back to Fields, it's Fields for good at that point. He has said, but the Russell Wilson experiment is working in the one game that we have seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, look, Justin Fields started the season because Russell got hurt.
Right.
Like, Russell beat him in training camp, and he was the starting quarterback, and then he had the calf injury that kind of lingered. And, I think Justin Fields played well, in their first couple games, and they won their first 3 games of the season. And I think had they lost their first game or second game, I think Russell probably would have been back in the lineup. But you don't want to make the change when you're on a heater. I think Russell gives this offense a totally different dimension. So I think that's really the challenge now. And, as players, we would always go back whenever we're playing a team, you go back and watch their last 4 games. Well, really now you only have, really this one game with Russell Wilson to look at. The other games with Justin Fields, that offense was different. Like, they were calling different plays. He saw the field differently. I think Russell is a different animal. So that's
got to be more challenging to prepare for in that case.
It is, yeah, because you don't have as much ammo. You don't have as much material to go back and look on and say, all right, here are some tendencies. Here's what they're doing when they get this kind of pressure, when they get this kind of coverage, or here's what Russell, is seeing well. Like, he's seeing the nickel Sam blitz. Every time somebody blitzes him on the nickel Sam, and we've got 4 games of that, he's throwing hot and he completed the first down. So we're going to hit him from the weak side. So those are tendencies that you try to look at, over the last 4 games. What has really been an impact? Has it been, blitzing up the middle? Has it been blitzing off the edge? Those are all things that you can gather data on, but it's hard when it's only been 1 game.
Right. So we'll see how they put that together, at least on the defense or on the defensive cut-ups. They've got a little bit more.
Like, when you just look at the sack standpoint of it, too, like, I'm looking at their season stats. Like, Justin Fields was sacked 16 times in his, what do you have, 6 games? He played 6 games. So Russell Wilson, he was only sacked 1 time. So that tells you that he's getting the ball out, right? And I was saying he's scrambling to throw the ball. He's not just running around trying to ad-lib plays.
Yeah. But again, it was 1 game against a Jets team that had recently gone through a coaching change. And, there's a lot of outliers in the preparation and in looking at that tape. So a lot of questions remain as well. But Giants fans, the Giants official connected TV streaming app Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. As we head back to the phone lines, Chris in North Carolina. Chris, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Great.
So, listen. This is official Chris from North Carolina. I was up in Richmond, Virginia doing a college showcase, so I didn't get to see the Giants game. However, I got home, and on Monday I went back and I watched. And I still see the same problem. And I tell you what, as a Giants fan and longtime Giants fan, I am very frustrated with the head coach, with the team. And I got to tell you, I told you guys that we needed that bigger receiver, especially on third down. And you need an experienced route runner to do that job, to be able to make that happen. I don't know where they're not seeing this. And I told you guys that we should not have cut Allen Robinson. You have Mike Williams right next door, could be your next Plaxico Burress. And Shaun, Eli, he had Kevin Boss that he could throw the ball down the seam or even outside to that was reliable, that was big, that he could make an over-the-shoulder throw to. I just don't understand why the Giants are not seeing this. Isaiah Hodgkins is not the answer because he's not an experienced route runner. You need experience. Need that. I don't know why they're not seeing this. And Daniel Jones, he is feeling the pressure in MetLife Stadium when he starts the game. He's just not himself. Somehow, that's got to reverse. And if it doesn't, he may not be able to change the way he is. But please, somebody do something about getting a bigger wide receiver, especially on third down. I want to see it. If I don't, I probably won't call into this show again. But right now, I'm kind of bad. I've been a long-time Giants fan since I grew up in Connecticut. So I follow this team a lot, and sometimes I don't get to see their games, and I didn't this weekend. But, man, I'll tell you what, watching that tape, I was just totally demoralized.
Thanks so much for the call, Chris. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Chris, good stuff. Listen, I feel your pain. I mean, look, Maddie and I had to sit up there and do the post-game show after that debacle, and we're like, all right, how are we going to handle this one? And it was tough. It was demoralizing, on many levels. I think the lack of production offensively has been the most frustrating part because the defense has been playing well. I mean, they held Cincinnati to 17 points. It was really just 10 until that long run. Mm-hmm. And you do that at home, and you should be winning games. Like, your offense should be functional. It should be able to score touchdowns. Look, I think anybody would love to have a huge, target at wide receiver. But it's not just that. Like, it's, can he get separation? Can he get open? As we're talking about this, the Giants would love to have a receiver. It's the same day that the Chiefs just traded for DeAndre Hopkins, and it's like that guy was on the trade block. And, I don't know, you'd love to get a guy like that, but is he a red zone target? Look, I think Jalen Hyatt is a very complimentary receiver alongside Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton has had a couple of good games. The problem is just like, we need a more consistent play. Like Madelyn was talking about before, like, you've got to be consistent. And too many times somebody will have a good game and then, like, they disappear. Like, right. Where are they? And we're having that kind of up and down performance at receiver. And as I said before, like, it's not all on the quarterback. You can't blame him for every single thing. We tend to do that because that's just the nature of the beast, and they are the highest paid player. So, you blame the head coach, you blame the quarterback first, and then everybody else kind of falls in line after that. But if guys aren't getting open, where are you supposed to throw the ball? And there's too many times where there has been time for Daniel Jones to throw the ball, and nobody got open. So I feel you. I will say, you mentioned Kevin Boss. The ball was dropped, right. It's all functional, right? 3rd and 12, like, it's hard to really, come up with plays every single game that can convert on 3rd and 12. 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 4, it's a little bit easier to convert on that. But you brought up Kevin Boss, who's a good buddy of mine, a great tight end for the Giants, made some unbelievable catches. And I think for the Giants, that's part of the reason why they went out and got Theo Johnson. Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of the mold that you want at tight end. And he's been pretty good. I think he's very athletic. He's got great hands. We saw the touchdown that he had against Philly, was called back because of pass interference. That's something that he'll learn to get better at as a veteran and as he grows. But I think that position, him alongside Daniel Bellinger, like, Bellinger has shown us that he can be a capable receiver as well. I think Theo is the guy that they want to be that kind of stretch the field, down the seam kind of tight end.
Well, and Chris mentioned, too, the need for experience, but all of these experienced pass catchers were at one point rookies, at one point inexperienced. And, he highlighted Isaiah Hodgins, who, how quickly we forget that 2 years ago was an integral part in that passing game and the Giants team that went to a postseason and won a playoff game. And so Isaiah Hodgins, who is, has been elevated from the practice squad this year in moments of need, nothing to scoff at as well. But, with experience, sometimes you have to find someone who has that experience, and sometimes you do that and it doesn't work out, as we've seen in years past with certain receivers the Giants have tried that have had some experience and that haven't panned out in the building. And then, you sometimes you want to home grow that experience. And as, like you mentioned with Theo Johnson, these teachable moments, okay, he gets that touchdown, but he gets called for the OPI. That's something he'll go back to the tape. He'll learn how to strategically manage that coverage a little bit better so he's not getting flagged for it. It reminds me of, I remember in high school when I really, I started working, and you want to get a job for the first time. And I thought, what I want to do? I want to go get a job at a restaurant. That would be so much fun. And every restaurant you apply for is like, you need to have previous restaurant experience. And then finally, I was like, how do you get previous restaurant experience if no restaurant's going to hire you without previous experience?
Yeah, you lie.
Yeah, exactly. I am a sous chef. It's like, ma'am, this is a hostess position.
I worked at a buffet.
Yeah.
What did you do? I served water.
I ate.
I have experience. That's all you ask for.
I have experience. But, to Chris' point with these, you want a pass catcher that has experience. Sometimes you have to give those players the experience and let them grow in-house.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, look, we have experienced guys. I mean, Darius Slayton, he's a veteran. Jalen Hyde's in his second year. I think that's definitely a part of it. But, this is a young team. Like you defensively, we're a young team. This is some of the growing pains that you go through as you're trying to build that team for longevity.
Yeah, exactly. 201-939-4513 is the phone number as we head back to the phone lines. Cliff in New York. Cliff, you're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Madelyn and Shaun.
Hey, how you doing? What time did you start?
We started at 1 today because there was some media availabilities with the players at 12:30 that pushed us back production-wise.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, anyway, I missed the first few minutes. What I wanted to, my big take from the Eagles game was that there was, while we have made a dent, in the talent gap in the division between us and the Cowboys and us and the Eagles, what was striking about the Eagles game was how far ahead of us they still were in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And the best thing that I heard was from you guys in the post game, because I had thought I had seen that Ezeudu looked better after the first couple of plays, and I heard you guys say he did. So I was glad to hear that. And, it kind of leads into us being a young team, like you were just saying. Ezeudu and Neal are both in effect in their second year. And on the other side of the ball, Jordan Riley, who was called out for Saquon's run up the middle for being pushed over two gaps. I don't know if one lineman did that or if two did that. But again, he was a young guy in his second year who hasn't seen a lot of action, but they liked him, as a day 3 pick. You're supposed to be able to find good trench people on day 3, or at least later in day 2, and they just said it's really hard to find a guy who's that big and that athletic, but can he actually play defensive lineman is another story. So they have to find out. So I'm hoping they didn't write him off yet. It was a little discouraging to hear that when Dex went out, we were in big trouble. I thought I had seen a lot from DJ. Anyway, the fan base doesn't want to hear too much about that it takes time. I know when you want a big receiver that's experienced, guess how much those people cost? Those people cost as much as an edge rusher, and if they're experienced. So I was encouraged by Ezeudu. I'm thinking to get Evan on the field Oh, there's this mysterious thing called rhythm on offense. I heard it from Phil Simms first. He just said flat out one time a couple of years ago, offense is rhythm. And I heard Daniel say that he takes some responsibility for that. But on that play to Slayton where everybody said Slayton dropped the ball, I could see as an amateur, Daniel did not set his feet. And why? Nobody was near him, and he still didn't set his feet. Well, you guys have taught us that that's what happens when you get hit 10 times. When you're not being hit, you're still not normal. So I'm just trying to put all those things together and feel a little bit more optimistic here, because I'm still all in.
Well, that's good. We're glad that you're still all in, and you're right too. I mean, you're getting hit that frequently. Even when you're not getting hit, you're bracing for impact a little bit, Shaun.
Yeah. Appreciate the call, Cliff. I think that's Cliff from last week too. Like he's a regular. Mm-hmm. We appreciate you tuning in, and we're sorry for the audible on the time, but no excuse for you being late though. Like if it's supposed to start at 12:30, how you should have been early. You should have been there on time. Like
Schmelk and I both tweeted out the update, and Shaun did too.
Yeah. So we're having some fun with you, Cliff. Look, I get it, and I feel like the tough thing right now for Giants fans, like you mentioned, time. Like we don't want to hear that it takes time. I get it. Like in New York, like none of us have time, right? We're all rushing to get somewhere. We're rushing to get to job. We're rushing to get to school. We're rushing to get back to school, back to the job, back home. Like time is so precious around here, and I think I get it. I think everybody in this building is frustrated with that because we thought we would be further along. When they hired Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, we thought by year 3 we wouldn't be in this situation. Certainly not offensively, because when Brian Daboll was hired, it was like, hey, can we reproduce what Buffalo did? Can we reproduce that offense? You were the offensive coordinator. Let's do that here. And it just has not come to fruition. Look, there's not a singular blame for that. I think it's a collective blame, and everybody has to try to find a way to do something about it. There is no magic wand. We talked about this on the postgame show. There is no cavalry coming. Like everybody wants a big target receiver. Guess what? Even if you traded for a guy right now, that's not going to fix the entire offense. So how do you find a way to get the most out of the guys that we have right now? That, I think, is the challenge for this coaching staff, and it's a challenge for these players. Here's who we are. We are not a team that's going to blow people out 35-31. We have to find a way to win games. We got to find a way. In order to win a game, you got to get into the fourth quarter, and you got to it's got to be a winnable game in the fourth quarter. You can't lose it in the first 3. I used to have a saying. I used to tease Eli all the time, like, "Hey, man, you can't win the game in the first half, but you could sure as hell lose it for us. Like, don't mess it up. Like, if you throw 3 picks in the first half, you like that's probably an L. You could throw 3 touchdowns in the first half, and you're still losing the game if you don't find a way to close it out. So." That's what this team just needs to learn. And, I think it is frustrating. It's frustrating for fans. It's frustrating for us as we're covering the Giants and doing the post-game show. Look, it's frustrating for the people in the locker room, the people in the building. Like, they spend a lot of time. Like, these coaches spend a lot of time away from their families in preparation, trying to help these players put their best foot forward. And it just has not worked out. I will say this. Misery loves company. Like, look around the league. Like, there are a lot of teams in this same situation that are struggling, that have good coaches, and it's just not coming together. You mentioned rhythm. Like, I always felt like as an offense, like, you've got to be in sync. Like, you've got to be working as one. And yes, it is a rhythm. It's like a concert. If the tuba player is on a different page and hitting a different pitch, it throws everybody off. Like, you got to have your wind instruments lined up with your string instruments. It's got to be an acapella here. You can't have too many baritones, too many altos. I'm going into my musical knowledge here right now, which is very limited,
the range
but that's it.
Of knowledge from Shaun O'Hara. We've got golf analogies. We've got orchestral analogies.
I mean, I feel like on the show, there's a crescendo. You start out here, and then you just kind of...
This is your opus.
Thanks, Cliff. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a great call, Cliff. But I mean, to your point too, Shaun, it's like the Giants are going to need to be competitive and consistently competitive in this game, but also, not let go of the reins, especially in the second half. Not get into a deep hole in the first half, but especially if they keep it even. I mean, Pittsburgh has outscored teams by 68 points in the second half this season, 104-36 in the second half of games this season. So when you say, they're a second half team, Absolutely. And so not getting into a point in the first half where that's going to completely blow it out of the water is important, and not letting that happen and kind of continuing to stay the course for all 4 quarters of the game.
Yeah, I mean, and that's huge. You look at, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been somewhat of a gold standard in the NFL. Like when Mike Tomlin had, how many straight seasons of above 500 record. Like that consistency is there, and that consistency is what has bred championships for that organization. The second half, that is the biggest part of every NFL game. Like the first half, you go out there, you play, you want to make some plays. You're figuring each other out. You're figuring out what they're doing. Maybe they're doing something different. And then the second half is when you win the game. So you've got to be playing your best football in the fourth quarter, but you've got to be able to be within striking distance. And I think that's a credit to Mike Tomlin and his staff and what they've been able to do. But it's also the players that realize, okay, like fourth quarter, it's another notch. Like you got to crank it up another notch, on the intensity level. And unfortunately for the Giants, like that has always been the case. It's not always within reach in the fourth quarter. I think the way the defense is playing, like these games have been winnable if you score points. But you can, they start to lose confidence in you when they're coming off the field and they're halfway through their Gatorade and they're like, defense, you're up, like punt return, here we go already. And, you start to get that sideways look from them when you're not holding up your end of the bargain.
Well, we'll see how it all goes down Monday night in Pittsburgh. The terrible towels will be waving. We'll be on Giants postgame live. This week it's Amani on the postgame show.
Yeah, I think I'm the Bush.
I think
we got a shot now.
I will just tell fans who are listening that Amani Toomer has been on the postgame show after the Washington game, the Cleveland game, and the Seattle game.
Right. So he's 2-1.
He's 2-1, and then the Washington game was a close one.
Yeah, that's why he's the GOAT.
But you know what? We'll see. We'll see what
You've been on all of them. So
I've been on all of them. So my record is
what's your
terrible.
I'm 2-0 on the road, and I'm going to Pittsburgh.
There we go.
Pearson, you're the ringer.
Get the ringer in there.
Get her done.
Do my part.
I mean, see Pearson doing it for the Giants fans out here.
All right. Quick shout out. You're going to Pittsburgh, Pierce, right?
Correct.
You got to try one of the, I think it's Permane Brothers.
Okay.
Right? That's their known sandwich. Like when you go to Pittsburgh, it's like a panini sandwich. It's like, but they put the fries, the coleslaw, everything's all like lumped in between the bread.
Yum.
I think they're
like a Reuben,
Permane Brothers. Yeah, it's like, it's like sourdough bread, like so big, thick piece of bread, but it's like if you want a pastrami, if you get a roast beef, you want a turkey, Permane Brothers, I'm pretty sure that's the name of the sandwich. They had it in Cleveland. They called them paninis, I think. But they put like this coleslaw on it, the French fries, everything goes in the middle of the sandwich.
What else is on there besides coleslaw and French fries?
Meat?
No, like turkey. Okay. You could do pastrami.
Just a coleslaw French fry sandwich. Cheers.
I mean, it's like it's a big sandwich, but I mean it's loaded.
I'll check it out.
It's loaded. Yeah, you definitely want to get in on that.
Get some Instagram content of that as well. Do it for the people.
Just one bite.
Just one bite. You know the rules. It'll be a good one. All right. Well, Pearson in Pittsburgh.
That's got a nice ring to it.
It's right. It's like Emily in Paris, but better. And we'll see if it brings some success for this Giants team in a very, very tough matchup on Monday Night Football. But we'll be continuing to preview it and monitor everything as the news comes down. Giants, of course, not practicing today because this week is shifted because of the Monday night schedule. So they'll be on the practice field tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'll walk through on Sunday, then flying out to Pittsburgh and game night Monday night. That's a wrap for our show today on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Thanks for listening to today's episode, which is part of the Giants podcast platforms everywhere, giants.com/podcast. Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac. For Shaun O'Hara, I'm Madelyn Burke. We'll see you next time.